There are over 100,000 people who immigrate to New Zealand every year with the intention to make New Zealand their home, leaving behind everything they know as normal day-to-day life and having to learn new ways of doing things, new norms, new cultures, and different values. There are many people who struggle with this transition and find it challenging to adjust and settle, so they can call and make New Zealand their home. The purpose of this podcast is for me to share my journey and our challenges with the hope that you can learn from me and my family and have a softer landing. There will be good days and bad days, but with time, more good days. I believe we have made the right choice for our family. I want to try and help you do the same, but hopefully with a softer landing. This is Soft Landing, and I am your host, Brett Corlett.
Welcome to this podcast, designed for anyone thinking about preparing for or who has just immigrated to New Zealand. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode. Drawing from his personal experience, this series will guide you through the process of preparing for your move and helping you navigate the challenges of immigration.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Really awesome to have you join me again. So today we're going to be carrying on with the Migration and Money series that we started off. I know we've been working together with Ivandee Fitchet from Migrant Financial Services, and she's really helping us not only so that we can understand our immigration path and all the practical sides that we need to learn around immigration, but also the financial path that we need to follow as immigrants. So she's really been helping us through this whole process. And today we're going to talk a little bit more around investments. So I know a lot of you may be thinking, geez, Brett, investments. We just got here. The cost of living is so high. It's tough just trying to make it work here day to day, let alone trying to think about investments and savings and money and long term, which is tough. But I do think it's an important topic that we need to talk through. I think, there's a lot of questions on my mind. I'm now almost 3 years in, is trying to think, well, when do I start investing? What am I investing for? How much should I start investing? And not only that, some of you might even be thinking with regards to investments, is there a way to potentially get a pathway to New Zealand with investing for those of you that have a lump sum to be able to invest versus what we did, or most of us did, is actually going the work visa route. So this is why I really wanted to cover this topic as well, and really deep dive and try and understand investments a little bit more. So I'm really grateful to have Ivandee join us again so that she can talk through this and answer some of those questions that we have. But before I welcome Ivandee, she's also brought one of her partners along, which is David Morgan from Forsyth Barr. So he's an expert in this field. So he'll be joining us as well. So I've got two guests with us today. So let's start off with you, Ivandee. How are you doing?
Good, and you, Brett?
Doing very well. Thanks, Ivandee. Ivandee, I see you brought a guest along today. So maybe for the audience who doesn't know him, we know you well now. Ivandee, David Morgan from Forsyth Barr. David, if you could introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about your company.
Oh, look, hi, Brett and Ivandee, and thank you so much for inviting me onto this chat. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a investment advisor here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I'm an immigrant to New Zealand myself. I may have been here for a little bit longer than you guys, but I work for a company called Forsyth Barr. Forsyth Barr is a full service financial services and broking firm. And the area of the business that I work in is in around what we call retail financial advice. So that's really working with members of the public, families, but also some community organizations to help them with really all of their investment requirements, any advice and any ongoing support that they need in and around those services.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, David. It's really awesome to have you join us today so we can clear up a couple of things around investments. So really what I was trying to understand, and Ivandee, maybe I'll start with you, is just as an immigrant, I've almost been here 3 years, as I mentioned a little earlier, but when do you actually even start investing? How do we go about this? How much should I be investing? How regularly? Where do we even start? Like maybe guide us and talk us through that. So for us basic people that don't live in this world every day can get an idea of how to start.
So it's a conversation like with all the other pieces we try and have before you leave your home country to give us a really good idea of what surplus cash are you bringing over and how much of that cash do we need to put aside for setting up in New Zealand, the expenses that are coming your way, especially in those first 2 years, typically we don't see too many people touch that surplus money within the first 2 years because there is so much that needs to go out when you first get here.
Tell me about it.
But there are certain things where people do emphasize a priority on. So for us, we would typically try and look at, okay, how much of your money can we put aside towards your house deposit?
Okay.
Keeping in mind you need to wait for residency before we can use that money. But then we have a time frame. Okay, how long can that money be kept safe for you until we need to access it? And another one that comes up quite frequently, which seems to be important for a lot of families, especially South Africans, is money to be put aside for the kids' university fees, because student loans is not a big thing for us in SA. And typically it is in New Zealand, but they don't want their kids to start their adult life in debt here. So those are the two main things that we see come up quite often.
Okay.
As far as when to do it, the sooner the better. We would like people to do it, but I think it's that unknown for most people in the first 2 years. You know, you still don't have residency. Should you put your money aside? How much can you be putting aside? So we find there's definitely a trend that people that were quite active with investments back home would be active with investments here. That's a general trend that we see.
Okay. I'm also guessing it also depends on each person and how much funds they potentially have across to bring across. So that'll dictate a little bit of the timing of where they can invest. Because to your point, I know in my first 2 years before you even get your residency, you're really just trying to survive, and just trying to figure things out here. So I haven't really even got to a stage to think about buying a house. I haven't hopefully got my kids at that age where they had to go straight into university. In my case, they were a little bit younger. So it was free schooling for now, but I hadn't even started thinking about that longer term stuff. So listening to you, Ivandee, it's sounding like your first 2 years is kind of finding your feet and getting settled, get your residency, and then we start thinking about investments. From there, where would I even start with investments? Is there a certain type, certain amount? How would I get into it? Where to from there? Let's assume I'm 2 years in. I'm at that stage now where I am. I'm here 3 years. I'm feeling settled. My wife's working. We both got jobs now. And we're starting to think, okay, we better start thinking about our future now. We do need a home. We need to plant roots. I have got a teenager, as you know. I've got two of them now. So we've got to start thinking about putting them through tertiary education, which is going to cost big bucks, I'm sure. So we need to think about that. Never mind my own retirement and not being a burden on my kids. That's all things that are weighing on me. So what would you say I would need to do? Next steps? What can and how would it work?
So our next steps is to determine your short, medium, and long-term goals. That's really important. And by then I would have an overview of what money we are working with. Not just in lump sum, but surplus money on a monthly basis as well that we can start putting aside. People also quickly realize that just putting money in a savings account here gets you nowhere, absolutely nowhere. And I think it makes people a bit despondent. That also triggers a light. Okay, we need to actually get proper investment advice. Then I can send that summary and what the client's intent is to David. And leave it in his very capable hands then to put those short, medium, and long-term plans in place for clients.
Okay. So, David, with that, maybe you can just elaborate a little bit on short, medium, and long-term plans. Just tell me, what does that look like? What is it? Tell me. I'm trying to just paint a picture for me. I'm a pictures person.
Well, look, I mean, it certainly is a very personal and individually specific scenario. And I think a lot of it does come down to your stage of life, how old you are. Do you have a family with you at the time? And how old they are. In reality, and this is, I'm sure we all reflect on this in our own personal experience moving here. When you come into a new country, a new environment, you have some huge priorities that are all short term. You know, so it makes sense that you do, for the first little while, focus on short-term objectives. You know, you want to make sure that you've got a contingency fund. You want to make sure that your cash flow situation is sorted out. And you just need to make sure that you and your family are on that sure footing that you need to then start thinking about those medium and long-term goals. So I think it's completely reasonable that in that early phase, you do really zone on those short-term objectives. I think once you've got through that initial period, it's really important to start thinking about those medium and long-term objectives.
Yeah.
And that's where you might start to think about, things like, and I tend to time bound it,
Yeah.
what's coming up in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
What do we think might be coming up in the next 10 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even if it's a broad brush, let's get real. We do need to actually start thinking about those long-term objectives, like retirement, like putting your young children through university, maybe even considering how you're going to care for parents as they go into their older age. These are the kind of tough ones, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a point where you should start thinking about those things too. And even if we're making what feel like little baby steps towards those things, it's worth starting to sow those seeds reasonably early in the process.
Yeah. Thanks, David. So I'm also, I know I'm digging into a bit deeper, just so I'm very clear. When we're talking a short term, that's where we're talking like our recovery funds and everything like that. That's like the immediate settle and get grounded is what I'm thinking short term, thinking like within my first 2 years, correct me if I'm wrong. And then I would think medium term is when I'm starting to think a little bit longer, more 5 year, and I'm thinking maybe buying a house. And then long term, like you said, retirement, looking after parents, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. My broad rule of thumb, Brett, is any money that you think you might need in the next 24 months, 2 years, don't get too tricky about how you invest that money. That's really money that wants to go in the bank. Anything that you see you might need, or you might need to plan towards building up and accumulating beyond that 2 year period, that's where you want to start to think more carefully about how you invest that money. And that's maybe where we can start to think about some opportunities beyond the bank term deposits and that sort of thing.
Now, then my next question is, I'm at that stage now where I've been here 3 years, we are settled, and I'm starting to think a little bit medium term and longer term. But would you, Ivandee or David, would you sit with me and start plotting that out to build out a plan for me individually, understanding what I'm trying to achieve in my short term and long term? Is there a tool that I use? How does it work? How do I figure this out to know, Brett, you want that house, you better start with your salary in your household, with your expenses, putting X amount away, and it's going to take you, 3 years before you can put that deposit. I don't know, 2, 1, I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, so the house, which comes up quite frequently, especially for immigrants, that falls with me, so I can put a plan in place to get your deposit ready. Having that mortgage is also something that I will pass on to David, because it's important for your retirement planning, right? We need to make sure you're mortgage free, debt free by 65. We need to try and factor that in as well. And the other thing just before the mortgage we would do is your short term, your cash reserve. So normally what I say to clients when they just get here, we work on a budget and I normally say to them, let's recover the money you've spent immigrating. Let's start there, because we really do take a huge chunk out of our surplus money to get here and to set ourselves up. So David, I don't know about you, we normally, every family is different, but the rule of thumb is usually around $20,000 minimum in an emergency fund. But that can also obviously vary from family to family, but we would normally start there. So with those goals and assets in mind, that is then something I can also pass on to David to factor in. Other things like KiwiSaver would also need to be factored into your retirement planning.
So Dave, would I be right in saying you've almost got a tool where you plot out all my expenses, all my income and everything like that, with based on our lifestyle and the way we live, you would project hopefully somehow and tell me, Brett, you're 43 today, you want to retire at, 60, 65. This is what you need to start putting away. This is how we could make that work for you so that you would have enough money in the bank to be able to retire at 65. I'm assuming there's some sort of tool and you would do that with us, right?
Yeah, sure is, Brett. And I think, again, let's not assume that everyone's coming in with a tight cash flow, young family, and that's like, the only thing on the agenda. We certainly work with a lot of clients who, may be coming in with extra capital. They may be coming in with jobs where they're actually earning surplus income from day one. And it may indeed, in many situations, be actually that little bit closer to retirement already. So it's actually about kind of picking up an existing retirement plan and then kind of basically continuing that once you're here in New Zealand, and making sure that we're using the toolbox that we have in New Zealand to be able to continue those existing plans that folks may have had prior to coming here, you know. So yeah, it's certainly about understanding your cash flow, understanding the priorities that you do have in the short term. We all have them. We've all got the needs to have, the nice to haves.
Yep.
That's life. But once we've identified what that surplus is and the extent to which you may have capital already available for investment, absolutely about getting those funds invested in a way that's going to be productive, is going to grow that capital towards what you will need when you do reach retirement age.
Yeah.
So you can achieve that financial independence and provide yourself with that passive income that you're going to need further down the track. And the beautiful thing is, of course, if you do hit a few road bumps along the way and you do find yourself in a situation where you do need to put your hands on funds prior to retirement, if you've got your financial structures set up correctly, you have that flexibility and that liquidity. Of course, you can draw down upon that nifty as and when life throws those curly ones.
Those curveballs. So that's, thank you, David. That does make a lot of sense. You did touch on something and you actually made me think. Obviously, I'm always talking from my personal experience. So I'm talking from a 43-year-old that's come across, which is like pretty much starting again. But you're right. There's a lot of other people that will be coming here, be it from the UK, wherever else, even from South Africa, that are, like you mentioned, later on in life, or that are blessed and lucky that they do have a bit more of a nest egg. Is there any advice you would be giving them or any pointers you wanted to give them with regards to, hey, because you're coming with X amount or investing X amount, there could be some real good opportunities here in New Zealand. I've heard something about a visa that they could potentially have as well, depending on what they're investing. I just don't know if you could talk to those sort of people as well. Obviously, it's not me personally, but I just thought it would be good to touch on that for the audience there too.
Yeah, sure, Brett. I mean, look, I think first things first, the best bit of advice I can give is to seek advice. And sometimes that's not, it's not necessarily what comes natural, and we're dealing with 101 other things.
Yeah.
I would always encourage people, particularly coming into the New Zealand environment, do seek advice. We have a very, very highly regulated financial environment here.
Yeah.
And by and large, dare I say it, all of the people for whom you would be able to receive financial advice in New Zealand are held to a very high standard. So I would encourage people to, in the first instance, seek advice. I think that's a great thing to do. I think if you're coming in with significant funds, naturally that makes sense. If you're coming from a jurisdiction where you have money in a structured superannuation or pension arrangement, there are a number of pathways to which you can bring those funds into New Zealand.
Yeah.
And there are a number of ways that you can do that will be to your advantage. And that may be from a taxation point of view, maybe from an investment point of view, maybe from a flexibility point of view as well. So again, seek advice on those areas. The third point you made in and around visa.
Yeah.
Now, we do have visa categories in New Zealand whereby you can actually use money that you have available to invest to access certain visa categories to expedite your ability to move to New Zealand. So again, these are a little bit technical. They're quite specific. But to folks who do have some wealth, then they should get advice on exploring those options.
Okay. So there are definitely options there. Cool. Thanks, David. Thanks for sharing that. So what I'm thinking in my mind is I'm hearing one of the most important things to do, get advice. Whether you've got the wealth, not whatever else, it's really seeking advice from somebody that really knows what they're talking about. And that's where you two come along. I'm assuming, Ivandee, the best way is to contact you first and chat to you from Migrant Financial Services. And then you will be able to unpack where we are in our particular scenario, and then take it from there and involve David when he needs to, right?
Right, yeah. Great.
Awesome. So then maybe I want to ask you guys one more question. In today's interview, if there's nothing else anybody else heard, but they heard, you want them to take away one thing, just one thing from today. What is that one thing you want them to do, action, learn, hear, just make sure that's important to them. And I'm asking it to both of you, but I'm going to go ladies first. So I'm going to let Ivandee go first. What is that one thing? And then we'll go to you, David.
I think for me, it would be don't be scared to ask for the advice, to ask for help. There's no question that's stupid. We're all happy to give our time, break it down. We understand not everyone is as savvy with investments, but it is no different than phoning your bank and asking for information that you're just going to get blanket advice for. So I know a lot of people hear the term investment and they get concerned or reserved about it. There's no need. We're here to help you and put a plan together and try and get you ahead after immigrating later on in life. So just ask. We're happy to help.
I love that, Ivandee. I can tell you even me personally, sometimes you feel like, oh no, I can't ask that now. It's too embarrassing. My scenario is I just don't have enough money, or I'm not where I should be at my point in my life or whatever. So you're too scared to ask. I really love that, Ivandee. It's so true. Don't be, ask.
There's no shame.
Help. Yeah, no shame. 100%. No, thank you, Ivandee. Love that one. Okay, David, your turn.
Okay. Well, you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to give you two.
Cool.
And obviously, I'll echo Ivandee's comments. Look, I think the first is that no matter how many financial priorities you feel that you're confronted with, whether it's because you've immigrated or frankly, you can feel like this at any stage of life, is that you just sort of bump that long-term thinking, planning, and investment steps. You kick that can down the road, My advice to people is to, even if it's just a small regular contribution, the sooner you build that into your routine, your routine financial behavior, not only will you be amazed how quickly you start to accumulate money and how good that feels, you're also getting those runs on the board. I think when it comes to investing, there is nothing like experience. You can read the book, you can watch the YouTube video, but actual personal experience is so invaluable. So I just always encourage people, if it just feels like, gosh, is it even worth doing this small little amount on a regular basis? It 100% is. The second is, and this purely applies to New Zealand, when you come to New Zealand and you're just dealing with jobs and schools and community and the whole thing, for goodness sake, get out and see this country, because New Zealand is just an awesome, spectacular place. And the best way to feel good about your decision to come to New Zealand is to get out and explore the place, because it's so good.
Oh, David, I love both of those. I really, really love both of those, especially as an immigrant. Starting with the first one, habits. I cannot agree with you more. To start anything good, you've got to start somewhere, and getting that habit and consistency. So even if it's a small amount. So love that, David. Really, really do. It also just gives me a bit of peace of mind that, hey, Brett, even if it's only that $100, $1,000, whatever it is that you can afford, you just start putting aside. So thank you, David. And then I cannot agree with you more about New Zealand. Trust me, South Africa is beautiful too. We got beautiful nature, but I can tell you it is stunning out here. And not only stunning, it's just so nice to be able to get out and be so free, especially with the families and everything like that. I say it to my son, is so sick of me saying it, but every time I take him to school, I'm like, look at that Lindley, he's free and he's just so carefree, running wild, There's nobody with him and he's free. It's an awesome, it's just to see in New Zealand. Love it, absolutely love it. So thank you, David. Cool.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate both of you giving up your time just to share a little bit with us around investments. So thank you so much, Ivandee and David, for joining us.
Joan, thanks for having us.
Okay.
Great to see you guys. Thank you guys. Cheers.
Bye.